Lira by Armanis Ar-feinial. Part 1. I kindly suggest you go to hell. First off, you come here unwelcomed into my mother's sacred tree. Yes, I understand the likes of you think it's cursed, but why would you even come inside a cursed tree? Educated, my ass. Just what, exactly? Come to tear out the heartstrings, then? And you come to a bard instead of your damned necromancer down below? Morgrism as a death kink. Much more useful to him dead than alive, I should think. You want to know what you're feeling and why you're feeling this way? Am I correct in this assessment? I understand then, frail little boy. Let me tell you a story. His mother has an interest in adopting you. That's why you were compelled here. But first, remember the beggar your sister, Sar, mutilated a few short weeks ago? Oh, don't look at me like that. Mother made it known to me. Sar cut his finger and nose off and sent him off by himself with soiled food and a damned acid rain. Mother is she who birthed this world and the way it ought to be, before we destroyed it. And the world that you see is the tragic result of such a calamity. How did we destroy it? Simple. We didn't listen to one another. Some stubborn mule concluded that human beings cannot understand one another, and they never will. He was right. They never will. And the gates of hell opened and Nezca came out, helped rebuild the world into a dark, repressive regime your family now rules over. That was, of course, until the Nezca sought race superiority and mercilessly raped and pillaged like the Vikings in ancient times. Vikings? Oh, you don't need to concern yourself with them. They're long gone. Now, let's bring our focus back. You came here to get help from me because you don't understand why you're feeling the way that you do. It was about that beggar, but it's more than that. There is a word that has since been lost in your vocabulary, you piece of shit. All you royal bloods are pieces of shits. Your hearts are rotten. They're all fucking rotten. Black, pruned, wrinkling with old age, soiled and good for nothing but to be dust in the wind and return to dust from whence you came, Alkal. And yet, Mother still wants you for some reason. That ultimately is the reason you're here. Another replacement. How will you fare? Hanged from the room that you sleep in? Or maybe Sar will slit your throat just as you sit upon the throne after killing your father. Will she poison you? Or make you a cuckold first? So many ways to go, and you're running out of time. Soft words go a long way, which was an idiom from my time before the walls rose from nothing. Well, Mother created them to protect you all from the monsters outside them. Well, welcome to a dystopia. It's hell inside, and if you can imagine, it's worse outside. No water, no hope, nothing but dead and unnamed creatures that will eat you in a gulp, giants with toes as large as your castle. Discomforting, isn't it? Now, Alkal, I must admit, while you and your family didn't create this hell, you perpetuated it by simply doing nothing and leaving your people to their own devices to eat one another, kill one another for scraps. Oh, you didn't know this? How ignorant could you possibly be? Sit tight. You're gonna be here for a while. Don't bother looking for a way out. As you can see, the door is sealed with no cracks to pry it open. Mother wants you here, and she's bewitched you. You will hear me tell a story. The story of a little girl who's not seen 11 revolutions around the sun. The sun? You don't know what the sun is? What the hell is wrong with you? It's a giant yellow orb in the sky that keeps us from skirting off into distant worlds. Of course you don't know this. Those blasted black clouds keep any and all manner of light from the veil of the world shining its rays upon us. You won't know what a star is either. Silly me. Fuck. She's 11 years old, Alkal. Can you get that through your thick brain? Good. Now, to provide some setting, but I must warn you first, get that pail. You're gonna throw up. I must provide you with some detail about the setting because you've never seen what your subjects live in, have you? You enjoy a good night's sleep, right? You have a nice hay bed covered in blankets and some pillows filled with whatever you deranged lunatics stuff in them to provide support to your neck when you sleep. Your bed is appropriately lifted to permit you enough ease to move to the floor. You get to choose how high it is. Oh, how could I forget this? You prissy hussies even have clothes to sleep in. Now, given this, what do you think your subjects sleep in? Your younger sister, Rock, she's about the same age as Lira. Younger, even. She's beautiful, with a full head of hair neatly tied up with the occasional calls for it. A lovely, beautiful gown, and she's just right. Her body is slender, yet her skin doesn't uncomfortably cling to her bones. A smile on her face creeps upon her lips sometimes, only sometimes. I wonder why. What does Mother have planned for her, I wonder? Don't interrupt me, Alcal. Like I said, you can't leave. If it was so easy, I'd be dead already. Now shut up and listen while I go in outrageous detail. Create a mental image in your head, okay? Do you have an image of Rock in your head? Good. Now, imagine her underneath all those covers, resting peacefully on the bed of hay. You have that? Oh, and those pillows adequately stuffed in Mother only knows what. Probably dung pile, you degenerate perverts. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Now, I want you to remove the blanket, and you should picture her sleeping, curled up like a rock, holding to those clothes of her tightly. Still with me? Now, take those pillows away, and now she's just resting on the hay. Not comfortable at all, is it? But wait, there's more, or should I say, less. That hair of hers, full it is now, but I want you to imagine that you can see the individual strands of hair like wires on her head, and you can see near perfectly the curvature of her skull. Not too pleasant, is it? Less? Oh yes, less even. Take off her clothes. Take them all off. Excuse me? The skin. I want you to take a look at it. Her limbs are withered, not like the arms and legs of the sister you know, not strong at all, perhaps sturdy enough to get her from one part of town to the other. But for her to get caught in a fit of acid rain, one would think her skin would just fall off like melting meat. Move your eyes up from her legs to the abdomen, her belly, if you will. It looks like a bowl, pushing in and out with each breath, and if you look even closer to just below her chest, her ribs are well defined. Need I remind you that you perpetuate this tragedy by not doing anything? You want to change? You're the one with influence, able to do anything about it. Now, grow a pair and stop being a diminutive bitch. And now, if that wasn't cruel enough, why don't you add a few inches from the bed to the floor, high enough that someone as small as Rock might break a few bones as she fell? Might I bring attention to the bed now? It isn't hay. Picture a giant slab of stone cracked in a number of places. Let's talk about the bedroom now, Alcal. Let's talk about it. It's black. Why? Because there are no candles for her to light, and the torchlight from outside is far enough away that it doesn't even touch the front door. Lira resides and sleeps on the second floor of this building, an iron box with rust and lead and other foul germs in the air. Rot. Now, before you interrupt me, allow me to take you back to the day your sister cut the girl's father into pieces. How's that sound? Do you like the idea of revisiting an event that you could have prevented? Or too afraid, are you? Yes, I know all about it. Your father hates you, your mother hates you, and Sar would sooner kill you out of her own personal enjoyment, of course. Regrettably, her life will be too short. Or rather, yours too long. You know as well as I do, your life is near its end. It'll be decided, should things not change, shortly after your father's death, which I might add is right around the corner. Now, get your brain back in this shithole. Do you remember the room? What it looks like with Roch in it? You have that picture? I want you picturing Roch for this, though her name in this tale is Lira, and I will call her such, not if you have it pictured. She's naked, remember? Yawning, stretching, rolling over the side. Lira sweeps her legs off the side of the stone slab and hops off, landing casually on the ground, nearly slipping. She manages to walk blindly to the other side of the room. There's a small metal canister. Why is everything metal? I don't know. I wasn't there, but Nezca and humans fashioned structures out of sheet metal and left them there to age, rust, and rot. These structures had several things resembling what I used to call trash cans in them, a word that existed at the time. You call them rubbish barrels. She looked into the canister, dark and black as it was, and reached in, one hand straining against the near-sharpened edge, slicing into her palm. She hissed, pulling out her shirt and trousers. She put them on. From the pants she felt a draft, and her tunic was all threads. You could see right through it. Why keep those clothes in a canister that would cut her? Well, Alcal. Clothes are really hard to come by, especially for the likes of her. It was not unusual for someone to rummage throughout the houses for valuables they might steal. The sharp canister would serve its purpose and reduce the likelihood that someone would steal them from poor Lira. And now she stepped out of the corner into the darkened hallway. Her hand touched the cold iron wall, and her feet inched forward until she felt nothing below it. Cautiously stepping down each individual stair one by one in the dark, no windows, no moisture in the air even. A miserable place, wouldn't you agree? Getting down to the bottom of the stairs, she grabbed hold of the corner leading her into the hovel's kitchen. She climbed through carefully feeling her way through the room. She passed over the debris of so many kinds. Bags, chairs, stools, boxes, miscellaneous metal bars. I wonder why he even had those there. She made it safely to the counter and opened a drawer, heavy as it was, pulled out the tinder and lit up the room. Seeing the mangled mess of it, she pulled the stool closer to the kitchen counter, climbed the support of the chair like a ladder, and drew the candle closer, lighting it. You see, Alcal, the destitute don't have the luxury of living in places they can fix up. Everything was like it was before she and her father came here. The stairs are larger than the ones that you'd find in your castle. Humans used to be taller, believe it or not. Her belly was hungry and her lips chafed with thirst. She heard a groan coming from the other end of the room. Her head swiveled, and she saw her father. Do I even need to remind you what he looked like before your sister mutilated him? You know what he looks like. You remember the despair, the desperation, and the utter helplessness in his eyes. The blank stare, the frail bones, the limbs with the skin pulled back to the cold, hard floor. Empty, just like his daughter, Lira. A bowl for a tummy with nothing inside and ribs that can crack with a simple flick of a finger. Can you picture it, Alcal? Can you? Because I've a pretty vivid image in my head. This is what Lira sees. Every morning, she felt something in her, the desire to help someone in need, regardless of the need she herself had. She stepped warily outside, the torch lighting the pathway, the cobblestone leading to the road. Those green orbs, you see them as they signify the time of day that people should be up. You see, it was so early that even those weren't lit up yet. She crouched down, her hand wiping the dirt, the soil in between each stone, and grabbed a fistful. Bringing it to her face, she herself ate it, dry and sore to her lips, drying out her tongue. Alcal, don't fucking look at me like that. They have no food. What do you expect they eat? If only to stave off the hunger pangs. Anyway, the dirt stuck in her gums, and she licked the stones out, her own blood coating them. She grabbed another handful. Why would she do that? Because her father had yet to eat, and so she brought some of those precious minerals to him. So she did. Knelt beside him, hands over her father's expressionless face. Her hands shook over him, tears rolled down that malnourished face. No movement at all. None from her dear papa. You think you have it rough? At least your abusive father acknowledged you when you were in the damned room. Papa, she said, you need to eat. You'll die if you don't. And he didn't muster a movement. Not at all. No twitches in his feet, legs, even his lips didn't budge. Papa, she spoke again to him, you need to get water. How can you if you're hungry? Let me die, Lira. He finally spoke, but refused to move. The sudden speech shocked Lira, and she nearly dropped the dirt as she fell to her knees. Let me die and go fetch water yourself. But Papa, she cried, pushing herself closer to him with the dirt in her hand to feed him. He took a feeble hand and slapped hers, sending the dirt scattering across the floor. Leave me, daughter of a filthy whore, he repeated, while remaining on the earth. I assure you, Lyra's mother was no whore. She had a pure heart, but one day food was scarcer than usual, and so Lyra's father killed her mother, cooked her in a pot. Piece by piece, they ate her. Moving on, Lyra's heart grew heavy, and she sniveled as we children did, wiped steaming tears from her face as she scurried across the floor in a darkened corner of the room. Her tummy growled, and she was someone small that needed to move further and further away, ashamed to be related to the man that she loved, the one who had genuinely cared for her. I know. Not what you'd expect. Here lies the world, Alcal, their daily lives. Hunger, thirst, hopeless. That soil only satisfies the hunger urges, but it has nothing they need in terms of nutrients. A diet solely built upon rocks is damned to get them all killed. Lira was thirsty that day, and hungry. This is the start of every single day of every single family that lives in the outermost parts of the city, shunned and pushed out until they die or eat each other alive. Doesn't that just weigh on you? Do you know what makes this especially dangerous for someone like Lira? The green orbs decided to light and revealed the roads leading down to the market district, a completely different part of town, one with food and water to spare. But no one was ever kind enough to spare any, regardless of it being a child. In fact, children all alone were often picked up, kidnapped, either eaten or sold for labor, or destined to have their identity erased for a life of brothels, alcohol. Do yourself a favor and never bed someone from a brothel. Could be someone's child. There it is. Use that bucket. It's what it's there for. I'm going to need it after. Sick world we live in. Truly despicable. And people have the power to do something about. Different time. Same problem. And this time, it's around every damned corner. Imagine a little girl traveling a road as long as that, as dark as that, where she would be seen as a nice piece of meat to eat, produce, or other depraved things. This is your fault. Why don't you change it? Oh, that's right. Sar will kill you before you even have a chance. Lyra's so frail, Alco. What will you do to save her from that? She can only traverse the abyss, and even that is no small feat for anyone. You know this, for you dare not brave it with an armed guard at your side. Mother, why must you show me this? All I want is to die. Depart me from this world that I may finally know rest.